Hey, I've got a question for you. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is prospecting in your practice? Actually, don't even bother answering because I know what the number is. It's 11. Prospecting is hands down the most important part of our practice on a day-to-day basis. We need new clients coming through that door. But what happens when you meet a prospect and things just don't feel right? Do you walk away? Do you continue? Well, on today's episode, we have an amazing conversation with Jim Toddy, very successful financial advisor, and he walks through what sets off his spider senses when it comes to prospects. He also has one of maybe the greatest stories that I've ever heard relating to prospecting, and spoiler alert, it involves Chris Hansen and it involves To Catch an Advisor. You do not want to miss this episode. You meet a prospect that you're excited about, and in conversation, in fact-finding, and getting to know them, it turns out that they are maybe the last person you want to take onto your book, and you have to tell them no. And so, Jim, I want to just dive right in. So you've had this happen to you.
I have.
All right, so let's go set the stage for us. So set the stage for us. And before, just so everybody knows, full service, you do investments, you do insurance, you do the whole line.
Correct.
Okay, so you're out, you meet a prospect. So let's just start right there. Tell us about the prospect, without their name though.
Sure. So as advisors, we work very hard to have someone actually want to come in and become clients.
Absolutely.
And so we do a lot of preparation for that event. And we kind of lose track sometimes of maybe those folks might not be the best clients to have in the long run, even though it took us a lot of effort to get them in there. So gentleman comes in, great fact-finding information, he'd be a great client to have, but when I started laying out expectations of what I can and can't do, he was stuck on an area of growth and the type of returns he would love to have. And he's like, I need to have this amount of interest per year. And it was something like 17% a year.
That is a high.
So when I put in context of how a portfolio works and what's realistic and what he can expect, there was a disconnect there. And basically I had to let him know, unfortunately, I'm not the person that can help you do that. I said that you might find some advisors that will tell you that they can do that, but I would be shocked if they do. And, I just had to let that prospect go. And ultimately, I know it was a good decision for me. I could have pressed the issue. I could have made him a client, but ultimately he would have been unhappy.
Let's flesh that out a little more. So how were you prospecting at that time?
Through dinner seminars.
Okay, so this guy, you've actually sunk a little ROI here. You've sunk some
correct
some money in here.
Yes.
So he attends your seminar, and he wants to schedule that appointment, which means he's qualified then, right?
Yes.
Why did he want such a high interest rate?
He didn't want to cut his spending back. Which you really don't run into this, but this really sticks out in my mind. Most people who are retired, they're savers, and they're not overspending. I think we all as advisors can look at our books of business and see that people are going to keep growing their net worth in retirement. This gentleman, he just loved spending money, and he wanted to keep a certain amount that he could pass on, and knew he had to make that amount of interest with the amount of spending he was going to do.
Did he bring in a spouse? Was he?
No,
was
he was solo.
Solo.
So maybe that was the problem.
That's where the spending was going.
Yeah.
So how early in the process? So he comes in and give us the long story. Take us the long way around the barn here. So he comes in. Is he bringing everything with him so that you can dive in? Like how far did you go down into fact finding before you knew in the back of your mind like this isn't going to work?
Yeah. Typically, if I'm meeting a prospect for the first time, it's just a fact-finding appointment, seeing if we're a good fit, and I'm glad I do it that way. And so, he had all his statements, his tax returns, and we had good conversation. And then, once again, when I was trying to set expectations of what I do and how I could help him, it came out. It flushed it out in that first appointment.
So he was just like right off the bat, like, I like what I saw at the dinner seminar. You're my guy.
Yes.
I need 17.
Yeah. Because at the dinner seminar, we're not getting into the nitty gritty of the specific investments and how we give a high macro overview of a
Yeah.
portfolio. So when it came down to his portfolio needed to return 17, it was unrealistic. Had to let him know that that's not going to happen with me, and we will part as friends.
How did he take that? Because that doesn't, like you said a second ago.
He pressed a few times.
Yeah.
Well, you could, he really wanted me to help him, and
So it actually becomes kind of a to go back to like junior high, like we're gonna have to break up here.
yeah, before we even got started.
Did he take it well? Did he?
I think he was appreciative. Yeah, I think he was disappointed too, because he had in his mind what he wanted to accomplish, but obviously that was a one-off. I mean, I don't think any of us see that situation come about maybe once in our lifetime.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I think the point of the story is setting expectations, so down the road there's not a problem.
Yeah, because even if a person were to say, I'll take you on, let's see what we can do.
Yeah,
You're just headed for trouble.
absolutely.
In fact, you're headed probably for so much. I would wonder what kind of, if you end up getting something written up in FINRA or down that road.
Exactly. Very litigious industry we're living in. So finding the people that are comfortable with a decent rate of return, whatever that looks like for you in your portfolio, I have that number I give to people and they're good with it. And I always set it a little lower than what I know I can achieve.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, when people are happy then.
I've always felt like, people are okay with things as long as they know what they are.
Yes.
And positive surprises are great. If we're setting the expectation, let's be conservative, let's be realistic, and then maybe you have something comes up. That's a great surprise. People do not like negative surprises.
Not at all.
Are there any red flags that you've picked up through the years? Because you've been doing this a while. Are there any, Spider-Man has his spider sense that tingles when some danger is coming. Do you have any red flags when you're talking to prospects where you're like, no, I don't know that this is going to work out?
I do. Typically, if they're not prepared for the meeting, that I set the expectation what our meeting would look like and what they should have for our meeting. And if they come in without the documentation and things like that, and they're pressing in certain areas but not having any of the documents to back it up, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
But if people come and they have their trust documents and their statements and everything like that, they're serious.
Yeah, if they've got everything organized, you can take a little bit about their how they approach everything. What about any other like behavioral red flags or like, the way they said that, I don't know if we're going to be simpatico.
If they've ever brought up that they use attorneys a lot, that's a huge red flag.
My brother works in compliance.
But, for the most part, everyone's been great, but you'll have those one-offs that something didn't sound right.
Yeah.
I got an interesting story to tell.
I'm all ears.
So I was asked on a phone call if I sell annuities. This was back 2009-10.
Yeah.
And the gentleman on the phone said, my aunt's interested in purchasing one. I'm like, well, okay, how'd you get my name? And he told me that his aunt was given my name from a client of mine, and they couldn't produce the client's name. He couldn't. So I ended up setting up the appointment. I typically didn't do it, but he asked if I go to her home out near where I lived, so I did. And I went out there. The aunt had no documentation, and she kept asking, can I buy an annuity from you? I'm like, well, you can, but I'm securities licensed as well, and this meeting's just to get to know your financial situation. And then at the end of this, I can ascertain if what you're doing looks proper, and if you even need to do anything. You might not need to do anything. And so I took her through the whole first appointment. She told me she had a bunch of variable annuities. I had no documentation. So I told her I'd come back. She should have her documentation and everything in place. Well, I set the second appointment. The day before the second appointment, they called and canceled the gentleman. A couple weeks later, there was a show on television.
Exactly what I was thinking.
Chris Hansen, right?
Yeah.
To Catch a Predator. That gentleman was waiting to come busting out of the back room on me, and he did it for other advisors that were out there at that house. So my wife called the show and say, hey, how come you didn't show the guys that were doing proper?
Well, no one wants to see who does it right.
So yeah, but I was having spidey senses in that room. I'm like, this is completely so out the norm.
Yeah.
But that was a weird situation. But I was there. I could have been famous. Thank God I'm not.
I knew when you said that, I'm like, anytime when I was an advisor, if somebody said, hey, I've got, I want to buy a life insurance policy.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you're probably not healthy enough to get one, because
That's
people
right.
that want
Yes.
one, or in
Great point.
in a situation like this, it's like, that's kind of, that's too good to be true.
Yeah.
And too weird. And the biggest thing is that as a financial advisor, it's our job and our duty to make sure that we're acting in the best interest of a client. So
Correct.
anybody who wants just one thing, it's like, no.
Yeah.
Especially that come out to the house and all that jazz.
Can I get one? That was a very interesting, but it made my process, the process that I use to get to know people and to validate that I'm doing the right thing. I'm understanding people's situation. And so that kind of led into not having paperwork.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's nothing. I can't help you.
I just did my annual compliance stuff. I shouldn't say stuff. That sounds so dismissive. But I did my annual CEs for my designations. And
Yes.
there's always you always have the money laundering and that you have to do.
Yes.
That almost sounds like something directly, was there terrorists in the other room that were looking to funnel some money through?
Exactly, yeah.
Something like that. Any other red flags that pop up?
Not that really pop up in my head, no. Those are the biggest one is what I said, just having a genuine conversation with people. In this day and age, I don't think people want to waste their time
That's true.
You know what I mean? If they're actually coming to my office, there's got to be a reason for the most part.
Yeah. Anybody you took on that you wish you hadn't?
There has been
that now is no longer in your book of business.
Yes.
How about that?
Yeah, but that would have been more like a house account or something like that, where I was helping them.
Yeah.
And I might have helped them in a new investment or something. But some of the older ones that I wasn't a part of, I've had to move those people along because they're so stuck on the old advisor and what they did wrong. And it was washing over onto our relationship, and it's like we're really not syncing. I didn't help you here. I'm trying to help you through that.
Yeah.
So we need to do these things now, and I understand that's uncomfortable, but we can get through it. And so something like that, I've dealt with a few times.
Nice.
Trying to help out the BD and stuff.
No good deed goes unpunished.
Well,
That's where that one.
And I'm happy to help where I can.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you didn't end up on that TV show.
Can you imagine?
No.
Mom, Dad, Grandma, Grandpa, friends. Saw you on television.
Yeah. For all, I think I even remember that show because that was being in the industry. I knew we were all when that came out like, oh, I can't believe that guy did that.
Yeah, I know. And it's so disingenuous to catch a predator. Mm-hmm. The sexual deviance, okay, he's doing that, but then to attach it to our profession,
yeah, exactly.
Very distasteful, in my opinion.
Yeah, you should have sent him a bill for your time.
That, I agree.
This is my hourly charge, and I drove all the way out there.
It's true.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a big waste of time, but it is what it is.
Well, like I said, glad you weren't on there. Glad you were on here.
Yes, thanks for having me.
You're welcome in that chair anytime. And of course, for everybody out there, would love it if you'd subscribe, hit that like button, drop a comment. Love to know what you're thinking. And thanks for being on here.
Thank you very much.